The moment that oversized, overconfident gym trainer, my wife's lover, flexed his steroid-swollen arms and stepped toward me like some kind of alpha gorilla, sneering, "Walk out before I embarrass you, old man. You're not man enough for her." The entire gym froze as if someone had slammed the pause button on reality. And for a split second I could almost laugh at how predictable men like him were, the type who believed muscles replaced maturity and loud mouths replaced loyalty. And while everyone else in the room held their breath waiting for some explosive reaction, I simply breathed out slowly, letting years of military discipline wash over me. Ignoring the childish taunt that bounced off me like rain on steel, because a man who spent 12 years in special forces doesn't get intimidated by a gym clown who thinks lifting weights makes him dangerous. And as he stood there expecting me to shrink, ready to prove himself in front of the woman he'd been secretly sleeping with, my wife, I just bent down calmly to tie my shoes, letting him believe whatever fantasy made him feel superior, hearing the whispers around us grow louder, judgmental. Curious, hungry for drama, with some even chuckling, "Damn bro, she really left him for the trainer," and others muttering, "He's gonna get crushed." But little did they know I had faced men far more terrifying than this tattooed puppy pretending to be a wolf. And when I finally stood back up, his smug grin spread wider like he'd already won, but I simply smiled, a slow, controlled smile, and said, "If you think being a man means who can shout louder in a gym, you're still a boy pretending to be something you're not." And that one line sliced through his ego so cleanly he didn't even know how to react before rage flushed his face and he shoved his hand onto my shoulder, trying to push me back like I was some weak old guy he could intimidate. And before he even realized what happened, I shifted his wrist using the simplest combat lock taught in week 1 of training, twisting his arm until his knees buckled under his own force, dropping him to the floor in front of everyone, his face going pale with shock and pain while the gym erupted with gasps and murmurs. His boys, his little gym bro fan club, frozen wide-eyed, unsure whether to help him or pretend they didn't know him, and I leaned down so only he could hear as he gritted his teeth, whispering, "Strength without discipline is weakness. If you're going to steal a man's wife, at least don't humiliate yourself in the process," and releasing him only after making sure the entire gym saw him kneeling, clutching his wrist, humiliated beyond repair. And as I walked toward the exit, I caught a glimpse of my wife across the room, her face drained of color, realizing in real time that the trainer she risked our marriage for wasn't the man she imagined, watching her fake confidence crumble when she saw him powerless. And I said loudly before leaving, "Respect is earned quietly. Arrogance shouts until it falls." And once outside, the cool air hit me like freedom, the first breath after months of suffocating suspicion and betrayal. Because deep down I always knew something was wrong: the late-night extra sessions, the sudden obsession with fitness despite ignoring the gym for years, the way she smiled at her phone, hiding the screen, acting jumpy every time his name popped up, and though I didn't confront her earlier, believing maybe it was stress or routine changes. The truth eventually slaps you harder than any confrontation ever could, and when she came home later, fake tears in her eyes and a scrambling mess of excuses in her mouth, "It wasn't like that. You misunderstood. We were just training. Nothing happened." Every lie sounded like a recycled script used by every unfaithful person ever caught, and I simply told her, "I survived battlefields where men died beside me. You think losing you will break me?" And she crumbled, sobbing, begging, insisting it was a mistake. But betrayal isn't an accident, it's a choice, repeated over and over until exposure finally smacks it into daylight. And over the next days, as rumors spread, her trainer lover became a joke in the gym community, unable to lift weights because of his sprained wrist, avoiding eye contact, losing clients, losing credibility, while my wife grew more desperate, leaving notes, making meals, trying to recreate affection she had already thrown away. But trust once shattered never returns as it was, and I packed my bags quietly, leaving behind everything except my dignity, moving into a new apartment overlooking the city, rediscovering peace in being alone rather than being betrayed, joining a different gym where no one whispered behind my back, no one judged, no one saw me as the man whose wife cheated with her trainer. And slowly I rebuilt my life, my routines, my mental clarity, my sense of self that had been buried under months of suspicion and emotional stress. And every now and then I'd hear updates from mutual friends about the trainer, how clients avoided him, how coworkers mocked him, how he eventually quit and moved away, too embarrassed to stay, and about my wife who stopped going anywhere altogether, consumed by the consequences of her choices, overwhelmed by shame she built with her own hands. But I didn't find satisfaction in their downfall. Instead, I found it in the quiet reassurance that walking away instead of fighting to keep something broken was the strongest decision I ever made. Because a real man doesn't need to prove himself with violence or shouting. His strength is measured in how he carries himself when the world tries to break him. And tying my shoes before working out every morning, I remember the moment that trainer knelt in front of everyone, not because I hurt him, but because his arrogance collapsed under the weight of reality, reminding me that real power isn't loud. It is silent, calm, patient, and always waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. And now, months later, as I stand stronger, clearer, and freer than ever, I finally understand that sometimes life doesn't break you, it frees you from what was already broken, and in losing her, I didn't lose anything. I simply made room for peace, self-respect, and a future where betrayal has no place, and that is what real manhood looks like.